Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer, the 10-minute fluency shift. Let me just ask you a super simple but very real question. Have you ever found yourself saying, man, I desperately want to improve my English, but I literally just do not have the time? Or maybe you think that really learning a language is simply way too difficult because your crazy schedule only allows for a few free minutes a day. Well, if that sounds like you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to look at the actual data, the daily routines, and some really cool psychological strategies that prove you can totally transform your language skills using only micro habits. Okay, let's just dive right into this.
So do you really need hours of free time to learn English? Honestly, so many of us carry this heavy frustration of waiting for that perfect, magically uninterrupted 3-hour block of time to sit down with the textbook. But let's be real with ourselves for a second. In reality, that perfect moment to study, it never actually arrives. Life is busy. You wake up, you go to work, you go to school, you handle your chores, and by the time you actually have some free time, you're just completely exhausted. Waiting for hours of free time is absolutely the fastest way to ensure you never learn at all.
And I think this quote brilliantly illustrates our core paradigm shift. Learning English is like planting a small seed. If you water it for 1 hour today and forget it for a month, it won't grow. It's so true, right? Just as you wouldn't water a houseplant once a month and expect it to thrive, or, go to the gym for 5 solid hours in a single day and expect to wake up with a six-pack, language learning requires a little bit of daily nourishment. Our brains actually crave repetition. Giving your brain just a small drop of English every single day is how that tiny seed slowly becomes a really strong, healthy plant.
All right, Section 1, the myth of free time. We are going to completely bust the idea that you need these huge, intimidating blocks of hours to study.
There is a really stark contrast between these two approaches, marathon study versus micro study. On one hand, you've got marathon study. This is when you try to cram for 3 grueling hours on a Sunday. And what happens? By Monday, you have massive burnout. By Tuesday, you feel super guilty for not studying, and by Wednesday, you've basically quit entirely. But on the other hand, we have micro study, just 10 minutes daily. There is a massive consensus across online language learning communities that short, daily sessions keep your brain incredibly fresh. It prevents that horrible guilt of quitting, and mathematically, it reinforces your memory right before it naturally fades. I cannot stress this enough. Consistency completely beats intensity.
Moving right along to Section 2, the magic of 10 minutes. Let's look at the sheer mathematical power behind what seems like a tiny, almost insignificant drop of daily effort.
60 hours. Now, 10 minutes really doesn't sound like a lot, does it? You probably spend 10 minutes just mindlessly scrolling through your phone while drinking your coffee. But the crucial point here is the math. Practicing for just 10 minutes a day adds up to 70 minutes a week. Over a month, that's 5 hours, and that snowballs into over 60 hours of focused English improvement in a single year. When you look at it like that, 10 minutes isn't small at all. It's an incredibly powerful engine for long-term growth.
Let's ground all this data with a real-life example. Meet Elisa. She's a 20-year-old university student. She lives alone, she studies hard, and she has an incredibly busy schedule. She absolutely does not have 3 free hours. So instead, she cleverly integrates short little bursts of English into her existing routine. At 7:30 a.m., right during her bus commute, she listens to short language podcasts. Later on, during a quick study break at her apartment, she pops open a pronunciation app for literally just a few minutes. By stacking these tiny, 10-minute micro-habits into her already busy day, Elisa gets all the practice she needs without sacrificing any extra free time. It's brilliant.
But having the time isn't the only hurdle, is it? Let's hit Section 3, overcoming the fear of mistakes. Because this is honestly the biggest psychological roadblock that stops people from using their 10 minutes effectively.
We have to fundamentally reframe how we view mistakes. Look at it this way. Mistakes are proof of progress. They make you highly relatable to native speakers, and they actually make lessons stick in your brain. Take the story of Aisha, a language learner who was visiting Lahore. She tried to use the local phrase DK, which just means okay, but nervously mispronounced it as Thaki. Now, she felt totally foolish at first, but the locals actually found it super endearing. Laughing at her own mistake actually built a connection with them. And guess what? She never forgot the correct pronunciation again. Mistakes are not the enemy, guys. Giving up is the enemy.
Okay, so we've fixed the mindset. Now for Section 4, your daily solo toolkit. These are the specific methods you can use completely by yourself at home. These 4 steps are your absolute goldmine, and they're derived from expert sources like Angvarta. Number 1 is shadowing. You listen to a native speaker, say on a podcast, and repeat what they say out loud with just a tiny half-second lag. It builds your natural pacing incredibly fast. Number 2 is the 60-second topic rule. Just speak out loud about any random topic for exactly 1 minute without stopping to correct your grammar. This trains your brain to prioritize forward motion over perfection. Number 3 is record and reflect. Literally record yourself and listen back to hear your own filler words. And number 4 is self-narration.
So how exactly do we map those exercises into your everyday dead time? Because remember, you don't need to block out new time. When you're commuting, well, that's when you do your podcast shadowing. When you're cooking or doing chores, that is exactly when you use self-narration. Just like Elisa, you can say out loud to an empty room, "I'm chopping the onions, the pan is hot." When you're brushing your teeth, do some mental translation. "I need to call my mother today." You are taking idle, dead moments and transforming them into active, powerful language generation. But I do have to give you a really critical warning here regarding passive consumption versus active production. Pure listening gives you this dangerous illusion of progress. You might sit down and watch English Netflix for 3 hours and think to yourself, "Wow, I studied so much today." You didn't. I mean, listening builds comprehension, sure, but you must physically speak out loud to build the actual muscle memory required for speaking fluency. Your mouth literally has to get used to forming the words. Active production is completely non-negotiable.
All right, so how do we kick this off? Section 5, the 2-week action plan. I'm going to give you a concrete roadmap to start today.
Here is your timeline, and you can start the minute this explainer ends. Week 1, so days 1 through 7, is all about creating the habit loop. You listen daily, you focus on learning full phrases rather than just isolated vocabulary words, and you start shadowing that audio out loud. Then, week 2, days 8 through 14, forces you into active production. You actively try to think in English as you walk around the grocery store, and you start recording your 60-second stories on your phone. In just 14 days, these tiny little actions will fundamentally shift your confidence level.
Now, there is a reality check we need to talk about. Solo practice is amazing, but it definitely has a limit. You're going to hit something called the solo plateau after about 6 to 8 weeks. Your pronunciation will be getting great, but you'll probably still freeze up in real conversations. Why? Because solo practice completely lacks conversational pressure. When you hit this plateau, that's exactly when you should add live one-on-one sessions, using platforms like Ingvarda, for example, to simulate that real-world pressure with a real human being. Think of solo practice as your daily warm-up and live sessions as your heavy lifting.
As we wrap up the core concepts of this explainer today, I really want you to take this to heart. Confidence does not come before action, it comes from action. Please never wait until you feel ready or perfect to start speaking. If you wait for perfection, you are literally going to wait forever. The simple courage to open your mouth, make a silly mistake, laugh about it, and try again, that very action is the exact thing that creates the confidence you're seeking right now.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer with one final provocative question for you. You've seen the math. You know the tools you need. You know for a fact that you absolutely have the time. So, it's time to drop the excuses, drop the wait for that perfect non-existent 3-hour window. What will you do with your 10 minutes today? Your fluency shift starts right now. Get out there and start speaking.